Welcome friends for the next discussions on what do you call the economics for everyone, okay, series. Now, in the last few sessions, we have been discussing the various economic systems and their impact on national policy. Uh, Today, we will discuss about the next level of what do you call economic systems, Russian socialism. Now, last session we discussed about the American capitalism. We saw how the capitalistic principles um, were influenced by the classical school of economic thought process by Adam Smith and others, and took shape during the War of Independence of United States of America, and how it has a profound impact on the evolution of America as a nation and its policies. We will today talk about similar in the sense of the Russian context, how the Marxian thought process, as we discussed earlier in the schools of economics, influenced the Russian revolutionary leaders, especially during the 1917 revolution of Russia, which also coincided partly with the World War. Uh, okay, we'll keep discussing these areas. Some of the things we'll talk about it, basically evolution in terms of how Soviet Russia, which was ruled by Tsar, emperor, monarchy, aided by parliament members known as the Dumas, how the Soviets or communes under the Bolsheviks gathered against the Tsar ruler Nicholas II, and they gathered under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks created the Red Army, um, and the whole revolutionary gathering and the war against the ruler between 1917 and 23 actually led to the evolution of the Russian socialism. The Bolsheviks are people who were basically influenced by Lenin and others who are heavily influenced by Karl Marx thought process. Okay, so the Russian Revolution was a period of political and social revolution across the territory of the Russian Empire, commencing with the abolition of the monarchy in 1917 and concluding in 1923 with the Bolshevik establishment of the Soviet Union at the end of the Civil War. It began during the First World War with the February Revolution, and that was focused in and around the then capital, Petrograd, now St. Petersburg. Okay. Um, the revolution erupted in the context of Russia's major military losses during the war, which resulted in much of the Russian army being ready to mutiny, rebel against the rulers. In the chaos, members of the Duma, Russian parliament, assumed control of the country, forming the Russian provincial government. This was dominated by the interest of, as perceived, large capitalist and Russian nobility and aristocracy. The army leadership felt they did not have the means to suppress the revolution, and Emperor Nicholas II abdicated his throne. So the emperor gave away his throne, realizing what is the situation. And the Dumas, which supported emperor, actually partly they converted from what they call monarchy to democracy sort of thing. But as we can see that the World War I has to a larger extent profound impact and the influence of Marxian thought process. So there was an internal rebel which led to the civil war and change in the ideology. There were different other reasons. The working conditions of the urban middle class and the peasants, poor farmers in rural area were worsening day by day. This all probably led to the support of the Red Army led by Bolsheviks. We can see grassroots community assemblies called Soviets, which were dominated by soldiers and urban industrial proletariat, initially permitted the provincial government to rule, but insisted on prerogative to influence the government and control various militias. Okay. Now, what happens here is, as you can see, A period of dual power insisted. During the provisional government, which was held the state power, while the national network of Soviet, led by socialists, had the support of working classes and increasingly the left-leaning urban middle class. So we have the multiple power when emperor throw his hands and let try to convert probably into democracy. And so we have the Dumas, we have the left-leaning urban middle class, and the Soviet Union, Soviets. There's a dual power. During this chaotic period, there are frequent mutinies, protests, and strikes. Many socialist political organizations were engaged in daily struggle and competed for influence within the Duma and the Soviets. Either the two powerful organizations, the Dumas or the Soviet, they wanted to be part of it. Central among them were the Bolsheviks, once of the majority, that's the meaning, led by Mr. Vladimir Lenin. He campaigned for an immediate end of Russian participation in the war, granting land to the peasants and providing bread to the urban workers, understanding what exactly is the sentiments across the nation. When the provisional government chose to continue fighting the war with Germany, the Bolsheviks and other socialist factions exploited the virtually universal disdain or hatred towards the war efforts by the government, the ruling authority, as justification to advance their revolutions further. So the Bolsheviks turned workers had the Red Guards, later known as the Red Army, over which they exerted a substantial control. And the civil war started. The situation climaxed with the October Revolution 1917, a Bolshevik-led armed insurrection by workers and soldiers in Petrograd that successfully overthrew the provisional government, transferring all its authority to the Soviets. They soon relocated the national capital to Moscow. So the Bolsheviks had secured a strong base of support within the Soviet and as the supreme governing party, established a federal government dedicated to reorganizing the former empire into world's first socialist state to practice Soviet democracy on a national and international scale. Okay.